Hello everyone. Last time we talked about education reform. It is urgent. It is critical. It is urgent in the age of AI. But how? My thoughts on this topic can be simply stated in one sentence. That is, transform from knowledge education to spiritual education. Before we get to spiritual education, we need to figure out what is spirit. So today I'll be focusing on what is human spirit. Next time we'll talk about what is spiritual education. Now let's start. Human spirit is everybody born with it. All human beings born with spirit. Not like the knowledge. We born with no knowledge, so we learn it in the school. But we're born with spirit. It's embedded in our blood. Before we use our knowledge to deny this statement, please hold on your thought for a moment and listen to my point. Please look at the babies, especially those babies before going to school. They see things adults not see. They react to events differently. We cannot simply call it instinct, ignore it as a childish behavior. Actually, those baby language and behavior driven by spirit they born with. And those innate talents can be enhanced in education later. Human spirit is personal, individual. That is, different person has different spiritual characteristics. We can see this again by observing babies' behavior. Different babies would respond differently in the same room, right? Same for grown-ups. Let's take true love, for example. When I met a girl 40 years ago, I knew she's my true love. I didn't know why, but that's it. So we married. It was not from my rational thinking, even though I was an assistant professor of philosophy by then. Now I realize it's from my spirit. It's the spirituality guided my life. Therefore, human spirit is usually irrational. We cannot logically derive it from facts or prove it by truth. It has lots of names like subconsciousness or epiphany, intuition, or simply call it crazy. Human spirit sometimes is unspeakable. If it is not possible, at least it's very, very hard to describe using our language. Very, very hard to define the human spirit by words. All we knew is there are something behind the courage, passion, sympathy, the sense of shame, a sense of justice. That is human spirit, I believe. We can watch movies, read poems, and listen to music without analyzing the technique behind it. Finally, human spirit cannot be reduced to a physical, psychological, or physiological process. We can design a robot doing similar things as a real human being, but still the robot does not have spirit. Human spirit is free. Robot is not. Human spirit has purposes. Robot has not. Human spirit has the courage of self-sacrifices as a hero. Robot does not. Now, let's summarize what is human spirit. Everyone born with human spirit. Human spirit is personal. Human spirit is irrational. Human spirit usually beyond the plain language description. Human spirit is not a physical process. think about our education. We put so much emphasis on knowledge as a result, willingly or unwillingly, undermined the human spirit. Do you remember the classic movie a black-white movie made in 1932, and it's called Modern Times, performed by a famous actor, Charlie Chaplin. If you Google it, you can see it right there. And it's very interesting to watch. If you don't have time to watch the whole movie, you can watch a piece of it. And it shows how the workers in the modern factory doing. It's so intense and tedious and funny. Luckily, robots backed by AI will do that kind of work. That's definitely a good thing. So our modern education for factory workers has to make a change, has to make a big change. I have another example. Let's see how persons without a modern education think in the similar situation, like think about the river. First person I want to say is Heraclitus, a famous ancient Greek philosopher. I have a book. I'll read. I have a book, the philosopher of Greece. I would like to read what he said on the river. You cannot step into the same river twice, for other waters are ever flowing on. Let's see how a person in the ancient India, living around 500 BC, Siddhartha, talk about the river. A German writer, Hermann Hesse, wrote a book called Siddhartha. Let me read a paragraph. Tenderly, he looked into the rushing river, into the transparent green, into the crystalline of its join, so rich in secret. Bright pearls he saw rising from the deep, quiet bubbles of air floating on the refracting surface. But the blue of sky being depicted in it, with 1,000 eyes, the river looked at him with green ones, with white ones, with crystal ones, with sky blue ones. How did he love this water? How did it delight him? How grateful was he to it? In his heart, he heard the voice talking, which was newly awakening, and it told him, love this water, stay near it, learn from it. Oh yes, he wanted to learn from it. He wanted to listen to it. He would understand this water and its secret. So it seems to him would also understand many other things, many secrets, all secrets. That's Siddhartha standing beside the water. Around the same time, thousands miles away in China, Confucius is standing by a river, and he said, let me read it out. Confucius, standing by a river, said, everything flows on and on like this river, without pause, day and night. At that time, all his students standing by him start thinking. When I was vacationing in Idaho a couple years ago at the Big Wood River, I put my hands into the water. I said, so cold. That's it. I'm one of those all A students from modern education institutions. I got total different reaction to river. I can imagine if a robot comes to the river, will tell me immediately exact temperature of the water and explain to me why the water in the river is from the snow melting on the top of the mountain, and warn me not to jump into this cold water without safety measures. Now we can see how modern education do to change our mind. If it does not erase human spirit, it certainly covers it up by knowledge. We have to change it. We have to change it now. Next time, I'll talk about how to implement spiritual education by a new curriculum. Bye now.